this kind of image here to more zen-like approach, I feel, to coping with all these things. So other than, you know, breathing exercises and a lot of coffee, what is it that's going to help us? So it is a CRM platform, and that in essence is what Dynamics 365 kind of started out as, really, and what Dynamics 365 for Sales is. And so for those of you who, again, haven't necessarily come across it before, a CRM system is a set of in today's world, is a set of integrated software solutions that will help you to really manage and track the information relating to your customers, relating to your business, etc., that will help you to close that business. Now, once upon a time, CRM probably stood for contact management system. It was in essence a collection of your customers' information so that you knew where the almost old school Rolodex, really. But technology, the way that our customers now engage, means that everything has changed in that world, and we have masses and masses of data coming at us from all directions. And the question really is, how do we find a way to leverage that information, that data? So how do I, as that salesperson, not become this person still with all the data being thrown at me, but become this kind of more Zen-like, be able to have this more Zen-like approach to it. And that is where Dynamics 365 can really kind of come into it. The module itself within Dynamics 365 platform, it's probably one of the most popular out there. It's probably one of the ones that most people have started out with, either that or the customer service module. And it has evolved over the years where, again, previously it might have been very kind of focused towards just that kind of salesperson. But actually you'll see in a moment from what I show you that it's about capturing data, all kinds of data about your customer, in order for you to be able to interact differently with your customer, with an ultimate view of being able to close more business. So what I'm going to do is actually, rather than me talking at you, I'm actually going to take you into the system. And I'm pausing because Matt had the pleasure of me shouting this morning when technology was not my friend, and the demo gods, I think, were not necessarily my favourite this morning, but we shall try nonetheless. So I'm going to take you straight into the Dynamics homepage, Dynamics 365 for Sales. So the reason I'm bringing this up, so as a salesperson beforehand, this was my go-to. This is where I lived every day, all throughout the day. It got all the information that I need to help me work with my customer, do the things that I need to do, work out the order that I need to do things in, etc. So for anyone who's not come across Dynamics before, this interface that you're seeing is kind of common across the other modules. So again, when you think about the user, your employees, your colleagues using the different modules, there is an area of familiarity when you look at the different modules. So you can see here as a salesperson, I've got all these different areas here that I can go into to work off. And this landing page for me is one of the dashboards. Now the dashboard, this is a system generated dashboard. You will have a number of system generated dashboards that you can utilize, you can tweak them, you can create your own. So I've created one here for tonight, a demo dashboard, for example, just with the kind of information that I might want to see. Now, if I just walk you through this as a salesperson, so my objective as a salesperson is to go and win business, go and win more business for my company. But I want to do it well. I want to do it fast. I want to do it in a way that means I get repeat business. So I want to build really strong relationships with my customers. So what I can see here, typically you also have a set of accounts or a territory that you will be aligned to. And so here I can see all the accounts that I'm aligned to. I can see the opportunities that I've got, and you can see here that it's in a funnel chart, so I can change how these are visualized to kind of get the most out of it, I guess. You can see here what my closed opportunities are, so what's the business that I've done already, just to give me a little bit of a kind of G up, as it were. The leads that I might want to be following, all the open opportunities, but from a list perspective as opposed to this pipeline view, so from a revenue perspective. And then here my activities. So what are the things that I need to do in order to kind of progress these opportunities on? Now, as I say, This is a system generated dashboard. I can play around with it. Here are some others when it loads. There it goes. And as I say, this is one that I created for tonight as well. Now, you could, as the admin of an organisation, have some standard ones that you choose to create and push out to your users, and that you may kind of have dashboards that you create for certain sales teams or certain parts of the business. That's entirely up to you. The beauty of this as a seller is that I can also configure this to work for me. So just because my business thinks that actually, you know, these are the things that I think you should look at, I might go, well, actually, I like this, but I need a list. I'm a list person. So actually, I'm going to change that to be a list so that I can view it in the best way for me. I might also be a much more detailed person. I might need to add more to this to be able to kind of do what I want to do. So I can tweak and add to it to my own needs. Now, that in the first instance is, from my perspective, was a lifesaver, because you know, there's nothing worse than someone trying to force you to work in a way that works for them but not for me. So this is that dashboard here. Now, I just want to show you, I'm logged in here as a full Dynamics for Sales user. There are different types of licenses that can access some of this information in this place. And so I've just brought up, just to give you a view, this is what another user might see. And you'll see that they've got things, they haven't got quite the same tabs here to look at, because from their perspective, they just have, you know, they only need to access certain types of information. They don't need to see all the other stuff that's on here, for example. So just going into these visuals very quickly, as you can see it's interactive, and I can always drill into these into more detail. So if I kind of go, well, actually, I want to understand, actually, let's do this instead. Let's view the records. So suddenly I can see the detail behind that particular table, that particular chart, and I can see the list of the opportunities here. I can do it so that I'm just looking at, here we've got the qualifier opportunities, these are the develop opportunities, so we can start to kind of really drill down into the information. Now, why is this important? This currently, I've got 6 leads here. That's not a lot. If I give you an example of some of the territories that I used to look after, I had customers of, I've had territories of, you know, from 10 customers through to 200 customers. And if all those 200 customers, we've got leads coming or coming out of them, you know, this list is going to look really, really different. The kind of mental power, brain power it takes, just the visual impact as well of trying to kind of look through a list of stuff and try to work out what you're supposed to be doing, etc., is really quite tiring. So being able to kind of do things like this is really, really helpful in that sense. So one other thing I just want to add in here, going into these dashboards, and I haven't got one in here to show you, but you can also bring in Power BI dashboards into this as well. So if you've got a Power BI dashboard that actually is bringing together a bit more information from other systems as well, you might want to kind of flash that into here so someone's got the access to that as well, but I haven't unfortunately got that here. So that's where I go to, salesperson, morning, go into my landing page, what is it I need to do, who is it I need to speak to, and this is where I'll go. So the next thing that I'll probably look at is accounts, so my customers. And so if we go into that tab here, again, you can see this list of accounts here that I'm aligned to, working with, selling to, and you can just drill down into these where you can get more information about them, and it's all these tabs up here, for example. Now, there's a couple of things that I don't have on here that I do just want to call out. So for example, there is an address here. You can see I've got a map map component here. but I haven't got it enabled at the moment. So typically, what if you had that, you would have the map view there, be able to kind of see where your customer is now. For some people, that may not be important, but for others, especially if you're more of a service-based type of organisation where you're going out to customer sites quite a bit, that could be really, really helpful. The other thing that I haven't got turned on here is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn integration into the platform will start to pull in all the LinkedIn information that you would typically see into both the customer and also into any contacts that you have as well in here. Okay. Now, one other thing that I don't have turned on here is our lovely assistant. So forgive me, this is a demo environment that I can only do so much with, as it were. But there is this assistant here. Now, Matt's going to be talking about AI afterwards, and I'm sure you have all heard about AI all over the place and how it's going to solve all our problems. This is where a number of things can be pushed into to help me as a seller make some different decisions, maybe by feeding the information, surfacing the information from other areas of Dynamics 365, of the Microsoft 365 stack, for example, and kind of give me guidance on, an opportunity that I might want to review because we haven't had a response back from an email that I sent a number of days ago, for example. So that would normally flash up here. So I haven't got that turned on, unfortunately, so I do apologise. But you can see all the other stuff here. You can see all the contacts, the customer, and then here we have the timeline. Now, one of the biggest frustrations I had as a salesperson, and I talked about those, I talked about managers and managers and colleagues, etc., who might all be working with your customer. And one of my biggest frustrations was that people would be talking to my customer and I'd have no idea. My manager's manager might have gone and had dinner with them because they were at an event and I wouldn't know. And I'd feel really stupid when I spoke to that customer and they said, oh yeah, I spoke to your boss and we've agreed X, Y, Z. And I'm suddenly sat there on the back foot going, oh, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if I've had that approved. Like, what do we do now? This timeline gives us the opportunity to capture every interaction we have with a customer. And you can see here whether it's a phone call, whether there's a case that's been created, whether there's notes on an opportunity, whether there's a meeting that's taken place. All of this is here. And so before every phone call that I may have with a customer, I would just scan this and I'd be able to have a much more productive conversation with that customer about what's happening. I can see, if I was to call a customer chasing them on a quote that I'd sent, for example, but actually what I've seen just now is that there's a customer service case that's been generated because nothing's working, for example. I'm going to take a very, very different tact on my phone call to that customer. I'm not going to be pushing them for their quote. I'm going to be making sure everything's okay and what can I do to help them to resolve that situation with the thing not working before I progress on to anything else. You'll see here there's lots of other tabs. This has been very field service focused. So this is very much focused towards someone who's in a service line business and going out. But you'll see here there's lots of other areas as well. And you'll see that, for example, I can also, apologies, that's my dog barking in the background. You'll see that there's all these other areas that I can also capture information or see information on to this account. And it can be connected to SharePoint. So typically all the documents that you might have, you can save into here as well. So going into contacts, which is where I suppose CRM probably started, really, that kind of contact management. So as you would expect, all your contact details in here. As I mentioned earlier, there is the opportunity to have your LinkedIn connection in here. So again, you would then be able to see LinkedIn information coming up as well. So you've also got these other tabs here of who knows whom. So thinking about how you get those warm introductions, which again, as a salesperson, you put yourself in that customer's shoes. You have to have a reason to kind of want to talk to them. And this starts to kind of guide you towards the kind of topics of conversation that person might be interested in, the kind of business challenges that they're facing that you can help them to resolve. As I said earlier, this is the document repository, which obviously I haven't got turned on. So there we go with that. Now, I'm going to jump through very quickly into leads. So I jump into my sales, I jump into Dynamics 365 on the morning. I've done the activities I need to do. I need to go and find more business. I need to go and generate more business. And so here you can see all the leads that currently are sat with me, my open leads. But again, you've got lots of different views here. And depending on how you're operating, that you might choose to have a different view as your kind of default, or you might choose to create your own view of what your organisation what is most important to your organisation. But if we go into these leads, one thing that I want to flag up is, and this is the same for opportunities. So once a lead, you've nurtured it, you've spoken to the customer, they're really interested, and there's budget there. They really want to kind of look at the products that you're selling, and that would be converted into an opportunity. Now, traditionally, we've all got our different ways of doing things, and you'll find that salespeople often have, what I feel is a strong opportunity may not necessarily be what someone else feels is a strong opportunity. So how do you as an organisation ensure that your salespeople are operating in the same way? Well, that's where you'll see here we have this business flow process up here. Now, this is currently just got the 4 steps in it, really simple, out the box, but you can tweak this. You can have this with some different mapping, different routes, as it were, and you can also have different workflows for different areas of your business. So maybe a service line business may operate slightly differently to one that is selling hardware, for example. But as you can see, if we go into this, it has kind of the must-have things that you need to be kind of doing or have captured and have got a view of in order for you to move this onto the next stage. And the same kind of would then happen with everything else as you move forward. And until you hit these things, that means that the business is deeming it as still in this kind of early stage. It's not going to be forecasted in terms of their revenue, for example, until a certain point. This means that everyone's working to the same consistent process. You're capturing the same information, but also you are making, not necessarily all of this has to be mandatory, but for the mandatory bits of information, you're getting that consistency of data, and hopefully the data quality as well will improve. Now, all of that is important because I mentioned earlier that this is all about having that data and being able to make decisions based on the insights that come from it. So you've got to know that you've got good quality data coming through this. Now, sellers are notorious for kind of doing whatever they need to do to kind of progress things. They've worked out lots and lots of loopholes, I'm sure, to get around processes and what have you. But this hopefully kind of will help to flag those up should there be anyone who's found a loophole to avoid kind of maybe filling in certain information. So again, you can see all the information here. You can see the details of what the lead is, where it's come from. You might have noticed earlier that one of the other modules in Dynamics 365 is marketing. And so this links in with that really, really well. If there's a marketing campaign that's generated a lead and it feeds into here, you can see where all of that has come from. Now, your leads will become opportunities. And so I'm going to jump straight to the opportunities tab. Again, very similar to the leads, and you'll see as we kind of continue through this, you'll see that there are common themes around how the user interface is kind of laid out, how you would work with it. because it is a cloud solution, it is a web-based solution. You know, I've worked with customers before who have gone, oh my God, what if I break it? If I click the wrong thing, you know, what if I delete a record? What if I break the system, basically? And I'm, you know, the way that it is set up, the way that users are set up with their security roles, you only have access to the information that you are supposed to have. You can't kind of do certain things like delete things unless you happen to have that skill, that ability. But generally, as a salesperson, you wouldn't be able to just go and delete customers, delete opportunities, delete contacts, and what have you. So I would say, you know, don't be scared of using it. You know, click things. For me, if it's clickable, I'm going to click it to see what happens and to see what else is behind that bit of information, because it might be useful to me. So we're going to go into an opportunity, and again, you will see this timeline capturing all the information. This obviously is specifically about this particular opportunity, but what you'll see is that this will link back to the timeline on the company. So when you look at a company information, you can see, oh, we've had conversations about this opportunity and that opportunity. You know, that as you can then reference all of those. You can see here the kind of things that have been quoted. I did build a quote yesterday. Where did I build the quote? Quote in here. Yes, so we can see that there was a quote here, for example, against that opportunity. So anyone coming into this will be able to see what's happening. Now, why is this important? Again, one of the most infuriating things that can happen really is I've got a long list of customers, I've got a long list of opportunities and leads that I'm working on, and there's going to be lots of people who are going to want to know what's happening with it. You know, have I done the quote? Have they signed? Are they likely to order it? When are they going to order it? Who's going to approve an order, for example? When do they want it delivered? You know, all of these questions. And in the past, without that kind of central repository of in essence, what is a 360-degree view of the customer and its related items, I'm the person that everyone comes to, and I basically spend my day fending off questions from all these other people about the same opportunity. And by the end of the day, I've maybe followed up, I don't know, 2 leads or 2 opportunities, because I've been too busy doing internal manual things that I don't need to be doing. This allows me to keep the opportunity updated, and anyone who has a question about that opportunity can come in here, look at it, and get the information they need without having to bother me, basically. That makes me very, very happy. So you can see here that there is a quote that's been generated, for example. You can turn these into an order. It may not be relevant for every single one of you on this call in terms of the type of organization you have. And again, this, you know, you may have third-party systems here that this will connect to pull in information. It might not necessarily be, you know, it can be Dynamics 365, but you may well have other systems that this will be working off. Now, one thing that I wanted to show you here, you saw the diagram earlier of the Microsoft solution stack, and I talked about the integration of the solutions. One of the big things, again, this is about how do we remove the kind of manual, mundane, duplicate tasks, etc., that I might have to do in sales. And again, some of those things of people asking questions, etc., you know, can sometimes be a conversation, phone call, might be an email, might be a Teams message, it might be in passing, I don't know, it could be all kinds of ways, but all that information starts to sit in different places. And even if it's on email, it's not sat in here. The wonderful collaboration that we now have with Teams and Outlook into Dynamics 365 means that actually I can work in the system that probably is best for me. Now, as a salesperson, I probably am going to be in Dynamics 365, maybe my Outlook. but I started a conversation this morning, just so that I had it here to hand. But I'm in this opportunity. I've got a question about it that I want to ask another team member about. And you can see here Teams chats in my dynamics related to this opportunity and customer. And I've now got a connected chat. What did I ask? Have you received feedback on the quote yet? And that's gone straight to this other person that I pinged this morning. You can see here. This was the chat that popped up, for example. That is now going to be all captured within Dynamics 365. So again, what I talked about earlier, kind of information all over the place and not being able to have that kind of consistent approach to things, the collaboration that now exists within Dynamics 365 is wonderful, really. Now, just a couple of other things because I'm conscious of the time. I talked earlier, in sales, I'm only really going to be conscious about going to be thinking about my opportunities, etc. But you can see here that there are some other areas like marketing and cases. And I gave the example earlier of having visibility of those. I'm not going to resolve someone's case for them necessarily. If there's a problem, that's not necessarily my role, but knowing that that's there, as I say, enables me to have a very, very different conversation with those customers. Now, ultimately, all of this is about me as a salesperson being able to close opportunities faster and more efficiently. But ultimately, it's about the customer experience as well. We want customers to enjoy working with us. We want them to come back and buy more. And the only way they're going to do that is if they enjoy working with us, as I say. So that's a whistle-stop tour of kind of Dynamics 365 for sales at a really kind of basic level. I can go into much more around kind of how you would bring in the whole customer experience conversation, really, where you would bring in things like marketing and customer service as well. But that would be a whole different story, really. So what are the benefits of Dynamics 365? We've got to look at it from a couple of different areas, really. And I apologise for the images. My other half, who is very OCD, is very disturbed by my slide, by, I think, the choice of images and the fact that apparently it's a little bit all over the place, but he didn't see it before, so this is really good in comparison. So, benefits of Dynamics 365 sales. Increase visibility into your customers, and that's both for me as a seller, but also for me as a manager, me as the organisation. I have that 360-degree view of my customer, and I can then make different decisions based on the kind of data that's kind of coming through from there. What does it help me to do? It allows me to kind of nurture those leads that you saw earlier and convert them into opportunities faster. And related to that, I can close opportunities faster. Now, a salesperson is ultimately about getting to their target and getting as much revenue in for the business as possible. So the quicker I can close opportunities, the more I can kind of look at the next set of opportunities kind of coming in. I haven't really spoken about this much, but there is the built-in security and compliance within the platform. As a cloud platform, there's a whole host of stuff that's sitting behind it that means that, I talked earlier around the fact that you can only access the data that you have been given access to. You can only access certain systems or certain areas of the system if you've been given access to it. So that's protecting the user, but also protecting the customer data that you're holding as well. We're streamlining the processes and driving consistency across the organisation. There's nothing worse than someone saying, is your opportunity going to close today? What's the likelihood of your opportunity closing? And they say 90%. 90% might mean something different to someone else in terms of what's been done and the genuine likelihood of that. And so this allows you to have common processes, common terminology, common ways of doing things, and then ultimately, as I say, lead you to getting data in from that allows you to make some really informed decisions. One thing I didn't touch on in the demo was actually what a sales manager might see. And obviously all the information kind of coming through from me as a salesperson will start to feed into my manager's dashboard, and they'll start to see information, get insights from their the AI assistant around information that they could use to start actively coaching their teams. Now, again, traditionally, sales managers might be seen as, they're kind of in their Excel spreadsheets, they're just focused about the numbers. And actually, most of them, if you talk to them, probably would love to spend more time doing more valuable things like actually supporting their teams and helping them to do more, earn more, close more business for the organisation. The kind of insights that starts to come from being able to enable Dynamics 365 means that they can start to maybe see trends. So, is there a particular area that we're seeing opportunities constantly being lost? Is that a training opportunity? Is there an opportunity there for a new product, a new offer? Are we missing something as an organisation? So it really helps to do something different. And then I talked earlier about the integrations, the native integrations into the rest of the Microsoft stack, but also into the other kind of third-party platforms. One of the things I didn't show you here was the Dynamics 365 Outlook app. So again, I could be working in my Outlook instead and still be able to see and use the information that is in Dynamics 365 to help me send emails, etc. In there as well. It would be remiss of me not to mention Copilot and AI. There is AI embedded into the platform already, so where I talked about the assistant that would start to surface up information from other areas of your systems to help you do something different. We also now have Sales Copilot as well. And this is really, really going to help. I think it's going to be a real game changer again in terms of helping sellers just to really, really focus and hone in on the actual art of working with a customer and actually, selling really. And the reason I say that is that this will help to automate and remove a lot of the kind of tasks that maybe take up time, maybe aren't necessarily all of our key strengths, and help us to do things faster. So, you can see here this image, for example, they can help to draft an email to a customer, for example, surfacing the information that is in Dynamics 365, or whether it's the opportunity, whether it's the customer, whether it's referencing a previous meeting that you had. So it can really help you to deliver much more efficient communications with your customers. It can help you to summarize kind of emails that have come through, meetings that you've had. So maybe that note-taking that you used to have to do in meetings where maybe you'd miss a bit of information, or you're so focused on taking notes, you won't pay attention to the customer. You can really, really be in the room with the customer, trying to kind of help them solve their problems rather than concentrating on taking notes, because the things like Copilot can help you to start taking meeting transcripts, for example, and as I say, creating those summarized emails, etc. The kind of where I mentioned the skill set side is the creativity behind drafting things like proposals, emails, marketing collateral, etc. That's not in all of our skill set. I'm not the most creative person in the world, as you can see from my slides. And so having something like this to help me pull something together that will also be very much on point in terms of my brand, the style that my company wants to write, and there might be templates, etc. It would take weight off my mind, and allow me to kind of focus on the thing that I enjoy doing, which is actually talking to the customer. You can look at things like this is real-time call insights with Copilot, for example. So it might generate answers to questions that your customers are asking. It might give you a view of the sentiment of the meeting, for example. Am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? All that kind of stuff. And then we talked about collaboration earlier, but again, it seems really small and trivial, but I think if you look at how much time I used to spend, either manually duplicating, inputting data from one system to another, looking up information to put into an email, to go back and forth, it seems really trivial, but when you look at it over time, it's a huge amount of time. And so what this is allowing you to do is really have that kind of that proper collaborative approach to everything. But I will let Matt talk more about Copilot. So a couple of other things that I just want to make sure we include, because I have run over slightly. If you are looking at implementing Dynamics 365 for sales, or indeed any other module of Dynamics 365, or in fact any technology project, please don't forget the change management side of things. I could have the very, very best system in the world. It could be just amazing, but it is of absolutely no use to anyone if we don't consider the change that you need your people who are going to be using that system to also come on that journey. So it's great if we put loads of money, loads of people and resources on implementing this wonderful platform. But if no one's gone to speak to the salespeople or the marketing teams or whatever module it is, the relevant people that are impacted ultimately by this change, understand what it is they're trying to do, really drill down to what the problems are for them and help them actually address their problems, you will go live and you will find that those individuals just find loopholes again. They'll go back to their Excel spreadsheets, they'll go back to notepads and paper, and your project can easily be deemed a failure because no one's using it. And quite often the technology is blamed for that. And typically it's not the technology. So as I say, I moved into this side because I saw so many customers kind of forgetting this bit. And it's really easy to just go, well, it's the platform's not working, or the whatever technology they're using. So I would say make sure that we take that consideration into mind, that change into mind. I've put this up. I'm a ProSci certified change management practitioner, so we talk about the process, the ADCAR model, which is that every individual going through a change, you're asking them to change the system they're working on potentially, has to kind of go through this. And that's a whole different topic for another day, maybe next year. The only other thing I'm just going to touch on is additional considerations is licensing. The wonderful black art of licensing with Microsoft. What I talked through there was Dynamics 365 for sales, and for most organizations, we'll be looking at Dynamics 365 for sales for enterprise. Now, what that also means is that you may have access to certain features and functionality that we've talked about already. So things like Copilot, for example, you may well have access to already. And if you do, I urge you to find a way to turn those things on to get it used in your organization. So leveraging what you've invested in. But I would just urge you to also look at the licensing for Dynamics, because there are different models, etc. And the way that they license Dynamics 365 with your kind of first application, second applications will change. But there are lots of people at Microsoft and partners who can help you to navigate that piece. And then lastly, this is something that I've pulled together that I share with my customers, etc. Happy to share here as well. But just some additional resources if you want to learn more about this. So Microsoft Learn is a great set of resources for all things Microsoft related. You can see here, if you're thinking about kind of moving into this, if you're thinking about a specific area, there's actually a kind of certification route that you can take. You might want to talk to your organisations and see whether you have access to things from Microsoft, like Enterprise Skills Initiative, which would give you access to even more support and training. This is obviously all very Microsoft centric, but I'll share this out. And then Obviously, you've got the community forum here. The Dynamics 365 community is a huge community and a very passionate community, and there's so many people there who are willing to help, want to help. So I would definitely urge you to utilize those. But here's a few more links here as well. So that is basically me. My lovely colleague, and that's basically it. So, did that do the job?
Works for me. I think that was great. Do we have any questions for June? I don't know how many people have actually seen D365 sales before, or have never seen it before, and have any questions around like the technology or the processes, or why you would. So my question, June. So Power Platform, Microsoft gave me all the tools. I can do everything. Why would I not just build a sales process? Like, why would I choose Dynamics Sales instead of building it myself?
You could try. And I'm sure, Matt, that with your skills, you would absolutely be able to do that in maybe a couple of years' time. Really great question. And I am going to tell you that Dynamics 365 for Sales is basically like a very, very giant, very, very advanced Power App that Microsoft have spent the time, the resources, the investment into building and making available for our customers. So what I would say is that they've probably taken, going out to the market, they've probably built into the solution 75–80% of what is needed in a sales application like this. But the beauty of it is that it's got the configurable elements in there for you to then make it yours and make it work for your business. So as I say, I would say that it's very much a giant Power App. To build all of that stuff, as I say, you could absolutely give it a go, but I wouldn't suggest it. It's sat on the same platform as Power Platform, so you're accessing Dataverse, etc. It's all in there. You can use Power Platform to enhance this even further. So this interface here, for example, is not necessarily going to, whilst you can access it on the web on your mobile phone, you're not necessarily going to want to do that. So maybe for different individuals on the road, you might want to create a Power App that surfaces some of this information. And guess what? It feeds back into Dynamics 365, all there real time. So lovely.
So I love the enthusiasm in the chat, Joe. But Microsoft has spent 20 years building the CRM and Dynamics 365 Sales. A weekend is a little optimistic. At least give it 2.
I mean, I've definitely seen customers kind of go, well, I'm sure we can do something. I'm sure we could pull something together. And as you say, it's been a long time in the making, Dynamics 365, and breaking it out into these specific modules as well. It's been a lot of resources thinking about kind of what people need, and as I say, the AI capabilities in it now are just another level. You have support, Matt, there for doing this, though.
I see. Well, so what I was about to write back to Joe there is I built a PowerPoint deck in an hour. An hour is not very good. So I don't have that much faith that I could build a Power App to do all of Dynamics 365 sales. I think
Mike might be able to join you on doing it.
Yeah, team effort. There's a hackathon.
Yeah, so I mean, in all fairness, just a couple of hero gets thrown around way too much. If you've seen the Workday adverts about Rockstar, yeah, hero is another one of those. And this person is actually a genuine hero of mine. They have been so knowledgeable, so helpful. The amount of info that they've shared is just phenomenal. They're always generous with their time and their understanding and helping out. And oh, sorry, yeah, that was the spiel I wrote for Foyen. Yeah, we've got Matt tonight. No, actually, in all seriousness, folks, honestly, MCJ, I've had the joy of knowing him for a few years now. And you just need to see his videos on Flow, as was, and Power Automate. He just really is an absolute legend. He is a hero of mine. He's somebody I am really pleased to call friend. He's somebody I always look forward to seeing. So, and he has stepped in last minute because unfortunately our speaker did have to pull out, unfortunately, but he has stepped in heroically and will deliver something that I'm sure will entertain us, educate us, and we'll all enjoy taking part. So, Matt Collins-Jones, thank you so much for everything you've done for me, for your help, and thank you for stepping in tonight. And it's over to you, my friend.
Well, I'm not sure I'll be able to follow that intro, but I'll definitely be able to do something. So, thank you all for attending. I am not Foyen. It may surprise you. We look a lot like. You know, I know it's a surprise to a lot of people, but unfortunately, she's had an issue come up and she's not able to join us here today. But we wanted to try and still keep in that AI theme, so unfortunately I won't be delivering the Foyen session, but I will be delivering some sort of random AI talk that I've thrown together in 60 minutes. So I'm doing a lot of stuff around AI at the moment. I'm doing a lot of like conversations about AI. So it's a topic that I'm hopefully somewhat familiar with, but the purpose of this talk today is to try and go through some of the things that I'm seeing. But what I would really love is if we could get some audience interaction, if we can get some people that maybe are using AI or thinking about using AI or anything else. So we can have a nice discussion around it. And if not, if no one wants to participate, well, I'll just carry on and just keep chatting anyway. So, but I have nearly finished my drink. So if anyone can help me and talk a little bit, that would be great. So this is my random AI talk. This is probably the most filled out slide of the whole deck. No, I did not spend 50 of the 60 minutes working on this one. It was just a reuse slide from my other decks. So if you don't know who I am Matt Collins-Jones. Most people call me MCJ, because Matt Collins-Jones is a bit of a mouthful. I've been working with business applications for over 10 years now. I'm a big fan of the Power Platform. Is my screen still sharing?
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. Yeah. Sorry, just on my screen, it's just changed. So yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Power Platform. Most of you will probably, if you're familiar with me, it's because I make Power Automate videos. So you'll see my love of all things automation, because why do something manually when you can have someone else or something else do it for you automagically? So I make a lot of automation stuff, and that kind of feeds in nicely to AI. I'm also a cat dad, so there's my 2 cats. I'm also a dad, and I can hear my son downstairs. So if there's a surprise toddler run into the room, it's just because he wants to hang out. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm also a Microsoft MTT, so I do tend to like head dive head first into full-on teacher mode. So whenever I'm talking about anything, I usually start to just train and teach people and all that sort of stuff. So you just have to accept that in this presentation. Okay, random AI talk. I'm just going to talk about AI generally, so I didn't put up an agenda slide. I'm just going to talk about some random AI things. Please feel free to, if you want to raise your hand, I'm looking at the chat and everything else. You can raise your hand. We can have a discussion about it, or if you drop something into the chat, I can try and pick it up from there and let's have a convo. So what is AI? So if you've been living under a rock for probably the last, I don't know, when did Terminator come out? Was that that was the 80s, right? So if you've been living under a rock since the 80s, and you've never heard of AI, AI is defined as artificial intelligence. It's the intelligence of machines or software as opposed to the intelligence of humans or animals. It is a field of computer science that develops and studies intelligent machines. AI may also refer to the machines themselves. So most of the times in our general colloquialisms that we use in our day-to-day life, we talk about AI as a non-human that is doing some sort of analysis on something to give you an outcome. So let's see if we can like get a bit of audience participation. Who here uses AI on a daily basis? Just drop a reaction into the chat, any sort of reaction, or reaction here. Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to not use AI on a daily basis. And I delivered the AI fundamentals course recently, and one of the things that was explained to people is that AI is actually so baked into nearly all aspects of our lives that we actually often forget that it's there. So, for instance, I'm in my car, I'm driving along, the car actually flashes up a warning to say that I'm too close to the car in front of me, and that I should slow down because if it's bad weather conditions, I may not be able to slow down in time. That's a version of AI. It's using a measurement of, like, say, if you are between this speed and this speed, and you are, this distance away from another car, let's warn the person. I use AI. I've got I call it a Mrs. A, so that I don't trigger all your smart devices at home. I have a Mrs. A behind me, and she turns on the lights. She turns off my lights. I have an automated heating system downstairs that can look at when I turn the heating up and down and adjust the temperature for me. That's AI. That's like studying trends and patterns of the data that it's given, and then just evaluating it and then doing something with it. So, my automated heating is like, well, you turn the heating on usually around 10:30 in the morning. How about we turn it on so you don't have to come downstairs and turn the heating on? In reality, I just asked the Alexa behind me to do that. So it's kind of baked into a lot of our lives, and there's different forms of AI and different things of AI, and we will kind of talk about some of the different things that are kind of going on in day-to-day life. So what do we need to think about when it comes to AI? So this is kind of a broad question, and this is more of a business focused set of questions here. So what do we need to think about when it comes to AI? So I put some things like, are there any ethical implications of AI, for instance? So is the AI that you're using trained by people of different backgrounds? Is it fed data from a variety of sources? If you don't have these things, you could potentially have issues. Is the thing that you want to use AI on an ethical thing? So it's really interesting, like when you start to think about these things in a business context, because you always try to think about business context as being, how do I achieve maximum sales? As like June was demonstrating earlier, I have this great system. How do I maximize the revenues for my customers? That's like the business purpose. But what about how do I maximize the revenues for our customers from an AI perspective? In terms of maybe AI would suggest, well, if you want to increase your revenues, have you thought about reducing your workforce? That's an ethical AI dilemma, because you're now saying, well, I've got this workforce, and if I reduce them, maybe my revenue will go up. But if I reduce them, there's less people to do the work. And will AI be able to compensate for that? That's kind of an ethical dilemma there. What about the concepts of is the thing that you're trying to run AI on an ethical standard? So maybe you're trying to understand understanding a complex problem or a problem that is more akin to something that humans need to be involved in and make decisions about. So ethical implications. Again, drop any of your questions or anything in the chat, or feel free to come off mute and chat through any of these things with me, because I'm just making it up as I go along. Are there any sustainable implications about AI? I don't know if any of you read, but Trish Sinclair, who's on our board here at the UG, she wrote a great article about sustainability and AI, because AI is going to cost us raw materials to manufacture the correct GPUs and everything else. But what about the energy requirements to power AI data centers? AI data centers use a lot of computing power. So firstly, they're going to draw more electricity and require more power, and they're also going to generate more heat, which means that they need to be cooled to make sure that they're effective. So, have we thought about what the sustainability implications? I will learn to speak at some point in this presentation. The sustainability implications of using AI. So, you're using AI from a data center. Is the source of energy from those data centers carbon offset? Is it carbon neutral? Is it using things like renewable energy sources, so like solar power, wind power, geothermal power? Are we making most use of like the landscapes that we have around those data centers to make AI in these data centers as sustainable as possible? The best thing with Microsoft is that Microsoft are actually investing in these things, and it's twofold really. One of them is to be better for the environment, and two is if you can generate energy from electricity or geothermal power or wind power, then you don't have to pay a massive electricity bill. Which I think during our whole cost of living crisis that we have in the UK, we're all trying to feeling the cost of having the heating on this winter, and we're all trying to feel the cost of having the electricity on this winter, with a lot of us being remote workers. So are we thinking enough about the sustainability impacts of AI? Who do we need to engage with in our organizations to enable AI? So do you have the governance in place? Do you have the stakeholders? Do you have the security? Have you considered the boundaries of your data? Until recently, all Copilot data that was generated from prompts and results inside of the UK data centers was actually being processed in either Switzerland or the US. Just recently, they've turned on the GPUs in the data centers in the UK, so that now Copilot prompts can be evaluated in geo and not outside, like in region, and not in geo, and not in a different region altogether. So are we thinking about these things? Are we understanding these things? Are we talking about how we can enable these features? Because I'll tell you what, I every third call I have at the moment is on AI. It's on AI because it's not a clear-cut thing of yes, let's use Copilot. Yes, let's use ChatGPT. Yes, let's use insert Amazon AI program here, whatever it's called. Salesforce has the Einstein project, I think it's called, or the Einstein Einstein project, I think it's called. So like, are we thinking about these things, and how do we turn them on? It's not a simple thing of let's just turn it on and use it. We have to think about all these different implications and how we're going to be using this data. Who manages and maintains and oversees the use of AI in organizations? So we've got, chief data officers, we've got chief financial officers, we've got chief technical officers. Does this solely fall into like the chief technical officers like purview? Is there some element of we need a new role inside of organizations to now oversee AI? Do we need whole teams from diverse backgrounds on AI? So when I was talking about the ethical implications and things like that, one of my favorite games of all time, I'm a big gamer, is Assassin's Creed. So I mean, I don't know how I've ended up adding Assassin's Creed, an Xbox game, into my presentation, but here we go. So Assassin's Creed is the first one is the story of Altair and sort of olden times, the Crusades and things like that. But there's a tagline at the bottom of when the game starts, which is, "This game was built by a diverse team from all different religions, races, and backgrounds and genders." So, are we thinking enough about how we are using it as like? So we don't just want one person to be in charge of all AI, is what I'm saying. We maybe want a team of people to all be discussing AI and making collective decisions for it. So, some of the things that I'm thinking right now. So how does Microsoft help with this? This isn't solely a Microsoft conversation, but I've just had a lot of conversations about Microsoft AI recently, so that's why I'm talking about this. So Microsoft actually adheres to what they call the 5 principles of responsible AI. And these are fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, transparency, and accountability. So with these different pillars, they are saying we are going to follow these things as all the things that we do with AI. So all of the Copilot stuff, all of the AI builder stuff, all of the things that you're seeing or not even seeing or just having your peripheral as you're using things, Microsoft are trying to follow these principles as best they can to make sure that we all have good, healthy, responsible AI, and that's kind of what they're going for. I'm sure other organizations, like Salesforce and Amazon and Google have their own principles that they follow. These are just some of the ones that the Microsoft have come up with or are adhering to, I should say. And they seem pretty good to me. I like them. So, right, where's my mouse? Cool. Copilot statistics. So, Microsoft Ignite was last week. Did you know that Copilot was used 15,000 times? The word Copilot was used 15,000 times across the keynote and all the sessions that were recorded. I know this because I fed a GPT chat all the data from these things. Discussions on responsible AI were counted 23 times in all those sessions. Sustainability, environmental concerns of AI were only counted 5 times. And over 1,000 copilots have been announced. Aren't those some crazy statistics? I mean, they're all lies. But I said them with such conviction, right? I said to you, I'm an expert in this field. Here are some statistics. This is how I came across these statistics. Why don't you believe me? And, maybe some of you were kind of thinking with the last one, 1,000 Copilots. I'm sure there's not 1,000. There's not 1,000 Microsoft products. How can there be 1,000 Copilots, Matt? But this is actually one of the problems with AI, is that we trust it. We say, hey, we're going to give you this data. We're going to give you these prompts. We're going to give you these data sources. And what we're expecting is a 100% accurate answer to the question that I'm asking. But that's not always going to be the case. So again, I use this as a demonstration purposes of not always trusting AI. So what we have in terms of the responsible AI that Microsoft have is when you asked, I'm going to use the correct term, Microsoft Copilot Studio with generative AI that's turned on, no longer PVA, RIP. When you ask it a question where it's going to find data from, and generate a generative answer, from the data, not only will it send you back what it thinks the answer is, it will give you sources of where it got that answer from, which is really useful. And that's transparency. That's transparency of saying, this is how this AI model came to this conclusion. It read this document or it read this website, it's pulled out what it thinks you're asking the question of, and it's relaying it back to you. So that's transparency in terms of those principles. But it's always a good thing to sort of kind of be aware of should you be trusting AI completely, or should you make sure that certain things are in place to mitigate things and double check things and have that full accountability and transparency? I wonder how many people are caught out with the statistics, by the way. Don't worry, I'm not gonna call you out in the chat. Which actually brings me to an important point, which is the importance of data. Which is, there are principles, there are concepts, and there are dedicated instances of what we call AI hallucinations. So an AI hallucination is a principle where you feed an AI a bunch of data, and what it does is it tries to find patterns, and it finds patterns that actually aren't there, and it comes to conclusions where it's concluded something but hasn't concluded it right. So it's one of those things of still needing that human element and still needing those people to kind of interpret the results that we're getting from AI so that we can make sure that they are accurate. Because again, accuracy and accountability is one of the principles of AI. AI's views can be skewed based on the data it's ingesting for things like gender, views, race, religion, etc. So when we talk about training AI models, we have to sometimes think that maybe the AI model that we are training, if everyone looks like me, if everyone comes from my background, then that model is going to very definitively give you the same conclusion that maybe someone like I would give you. So it's always good to make sure that the data that is going in and the way you are training a model is done in a way that encourages diversity in all its forms, so that when you train a model and the answers that you're getting out, they are much more reflective of an accurate, unbiased view. There was stories a while ago about models that are being trained for things like mortgages and things like that, and it was refusing to give mortgages to people from certain backgrounds and certain races, and gender and things like that, and skewing the numbers that way. That is a concern of using AI on these processes because it's not accurate and it's not fair. And fairness, again, is another principle of AI in terms of we need to make sure that it doesn't take these things into account when it's generating its models and when it's generating its outputs, because otherwise it's not going to give an accurate representation of what we're doing. And if you have bad data in, or if you have bad data, AI does not solve your problem. I see a lot of organizations that just go, well, we have these large language models, we have these LLMs. What we'll do is we'll just point it to our SharePoint site. SharePoint site has 25,000 documents, a bunch of them conflict each other. We'll just set it off and we'll see if it can answer all the questions, and just give us the response, and therefore we don't need to worry about our data. And what you'll find is that when you do that, your AI model will give you all sorts of answers. Most of them won't be right. Some of them maybe, but not all of them. So if you have bad data going into AI, it's not going to solve your problems. It's not a magic bullet. It's not something that you can just point it at and say, hey, just give me the answer. Like I can't read 25,000 documents. I can't assess which ones are right or wrong. Therefore, I can't remove them. But I want you to. And unfortunately, AI will not be able to do that for you. Which leads me great to, I love this next slide. Here you go. So bad data in, you put it through Copilot, it's slightly shinier bad data. That's the message here. Like, it's not that magic bullet. It's not going to fix all your problems. If you still have bad data in, you're still going to get bad data out. I shamelessly stole this from a guy called Matt Wade. He posted this recently, which is fine though, because he was complaining the other week about M365 Copilot being generally available, except you need 300 chairs or 300 licenses in your tenant to actually enable M365 Copilot. And he said it's generally available, but it's not available for the masses. And I said, yeah, it's generally available, not available generally. And he kind of stole that one. So this is like one apiece for the mats. I'm taking this one. It's a great slide. So yeah, it's not a feature problem. So talk a bit more specifically about Copilot though, and I didn't want to make this talk all about Copilots, but although my statistics were made up because I literally made them up half an hour ago for purposes, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Copilot, as June kind of alluded to in her session, because it is everywhere, and everyone is talking about it, and Satya is talking about it, and OpenAI, whoever's in charge today, is probably talking about it. And let's talk a little bit about this, because it actually feeds into a lot of the responsibility and transparency and other things that we kind of spoke about. So if you don't know how Copilot works, this is a crash course in Copilot. So if you're in a Microsoft Office application and you ask Copilot a question, the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to go to its Copilot engine. From there, it's going to do what we call grounding or pre-processing, where it's going to submit your request to the Microsoft Graph to actually check to see what data you have access to. So it's going to do that first check first. I can see Mark Christie just left as I started talking about Copilot, which I don't think I can really blame him for this one. So it's trying to do that pre-check to see what data you should have access to, and then from there it's going to go back to the Copilot engine, and then it's going to go across to a large language model. So in terms of the large language model, the one that's currently available in Copilot is, I think it's Copilot 3.5 Turbo. I'm not sure it's not. I'm not sure. I think it's GPT 3.5 Turbo. I don't think it's GPT 4 yet. It is it's an Azure Open AI model that has been trained and is not part of a public consumption or not part of a public model. So it is an off-the-grid model that is only used for you and your data. It is not used to train anything. The responses are not stored anywhere. The data is not stored anywhere. It's all encrypted, and it uses an Azure OpenAI engine or model to do that. So that's actually going to process the response of the data that it's kind of got. It's going to send that back to the Copilot engine. The Copilot engine again is going to check the Microsoft Graph to see whether you still have access for this post-processing stuff, and then that's going to send it back to you. All of these things happen in seconds. But it's actually good to talk about this stuff and understand where these boundaries are and everything else. Something that I found out today when I was going through the documentation is that Microsoft actually can store the prompts that you give it for 30 days and the data. But it doesn't look at them. What it does is it uses an AI model. You like where this is going. It uses an AI model to understand the prompts that you gave it and understand the data that you've got. And it doesn't check on it unless there's a flag that says this content that someone has been querying is potentially dangerous. So this meets any of the sort of rules that Microsoft have in place for things like terrorism, exploitation, all those sorts of things. Unless you hit one of those flags, it's not going to check the data, but it will store those prompts for certain things. So this is something to be aware of. And these things do go outside of your tenant, but they stay in region. So they stay in your data center region. So they stay inside of the UK, but they will be stored somewhere by Microsoft. So again, that's transparency, because it's in the documentation that's trying to do this. But everything's encrypted, and as you can see, it's all encrypted. steps towards all the impending AI that's coming your way. And do you know how much AI you're currently using? I don't. There's an awful lot of AI that I'm using, and I don't know all the things that is doing. But yeah, open questions. Like, does anyone want to come in? Does anyone want to chat about any of these things, or anything else AI related? This is the, the end of my presentation essentially. Maybe I'll check in the chat to see what's going on. Answer 2, panicking, trying to read, watch everything related to Copilot, Gen AI, OpenAI. Well, I mean, yeah, that's a very good thing. And if we had a decent speaker here tonight, a Voyant, maybe she could have alleviated some of your fears instead of me, maybe adding to them a little bit. But it is like, and the thing is that I'm joking that every third call is about AI, but it is. It's about Microsoft Copilot Studio. It's about generative AI. It's about Copilots. It's about AI Builder. It's about where that data goes. It's about how that data is handled. It's about who has access to that data. It's about data retention. There is so much to think about. But when Microsoft sell it, it's like, the salespeople, the marketing people sell it. It's like, oh yeah, we handle all that. We delete data, responsible AI principles, everything else. But the fine print, you actually have to look into some of these things of like, well, they do delete it, but it's after 30 days. And it is responsibly handled, but we do checks on it if it flags any of our warning flags. Of which Microsoft won't tell you what they are, but they're exploitation things are things that you would probably assume. Things like terrorism, other things, violence, etc. They will flag these things up to then do that check. So it's interesting to think about that, because it's not Microsoft being not transparent, but it's like you should absolutely read the documentation. You should absolutely go into the details of how these things work. And if you have concerns and you work at Microsoft partner or you work for an organization with a Microsoft seller, you should absolutely have conversations with Microsoft about these things. June can probably attest to all the experts like June that are in Microsoft that can talk to customers through these things and explain things in a lot more detail, especially for the people that are worried, and kind of answer those questions at those higher levels. So. Can you contact me if you have concerns? Depends what AI, Alexia. If you're concerns with Alexa, you can try and contact me. Do my best. I'll always do my best for you, Alexia. Do we have anything else in the chat? Anyone wants to talk? Laws of robotics, Mike. That's fun.
Well, we always have to bring it back to the master of it all. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the visionaries. But there was an interesting comment further up in the chat regarding the heat of data centers being used to generate electricity. And also, I did read on BBC News, I think last week, that they were looking at using the heat from data centers to provide central heating for a town or a village as part of an experiment to see how that heat can be utilised. But and then June's stat about the spike of 34% increase in global water consumption due to AI. And that is just insane.
That's a little bit of a crazy stat, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's, yeah, I don't really know where to go with that one. It's just a crazy stat.
Yeah, I mean, it is that thing where you've got the conflicting things of the move to sustainability, and you've got this technological advancement that is, I mean, I genuinely think in years to come, and your desktop has just triggered me, mate. That is a horrendous desktop.
It's fine. From Trisha.
But no, when ChatGPT launched a year ago, I was talking to my boys about it, and I said to them that this was a moment that was gonna be viewed in history as one of the major turning points in human technological industrial development, and that, quite honestly, the last big invention I could compare it to was the kind of creation of the internet itself, because I think this is just going to be huge, and it isn't going to be a flash in the pan. You're right.
Yeah, it's been getting better, but I suppose the other thing is, as it gets better, it gets worse. You know, it gets better in terms of like the more things you can do with it. It gets worse in terms of like, okay, there's a lot more implications to think about than you think. You know, I've been talking to organizations that are talking about the use cases that people want to maybe use these things for. Does it need to go to an ethics board? So for the ethics board to review all those implications of the use cases. It's a very real thing that companies that do. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm with that. That's kind of the end of the presentation I made in 60 minutes while I was trying my best to listen to June. So hope it wasn't too bad, and hope it wasn't too incoherent. I do appreciate you that I wasn't who most of you were expecting this evening. But I hope it was all right. I think
it was epic, bud. It was epic, mate.
If you'd like to connect with me on any of the socials, that's my link tree pile, so you can kind of go find me on everything. After this, I might do more presentations on AI. How hard can it be? If I can do it in 60 minutes. I might try the build sales next, just, you know, in a weekend. Because if I can build a slide deck in 60 minutes and it be somehow coherent, it's, you know, I know it's too bad. So, yeah, any questions? I'm free to stick around for the next few minutes, or any questions in general. I'm happy to answer. But I do appreciate everyone's time here tonight. I do appreciate June giving up her time, rocking it with the first presentation to the community. So she did a great job. So big thanks to June, and to everyone else behind the scenes. So Trisha and Mike and Narayan, who've been bossing it around. You don't see it, but like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. So big shout out to them for doing all the things they could do. Please tell Microsoft to remove the react button away from raise hand.
Oh please, oh please. And can we please move the leave button so it is completely separate from all the other buttons? It might be big and red, but it's one mouse slip away from being accidentally caught. And in thanking everybody, we must say a big thanks to Matt for stepping in literally last minute and bossing it. I'm sure everybody watching will agree. It was entertaining, it was educational, it was enjoyable, and yeah, hey, it was a great one. It was topical. and it's a great one for us to end the year on. So I think if people are hanging around, then MCJ said he's available to answer questions. But for those who aren't, I think on behalf of all of us in the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform UG, just hope you all have an amazingly fantastic Christmas time, and that you have a great new year.